So many of our new wealth project clients meet us when they're in this college planning season of life. And who better to talk about that than a guy with three kids that are going or just went through college. Owen, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of where you're at in your season and how you approached college planning?
Thanks, Kev. It's college planning's been on my mind and my wife's mind for 24 years now. My oldest daughter, Logan, is 24, and so we've been thinking about and planning for our five kids and their education for a long time. And when you decide to have a big family, you better put your big boy pants on because you know it's going to be a significant investment. And at this point now, having kids in school, kids through school, a very worthy investment at that. But the challenge is that the cost of it continues to go up, and um, it's not the only lifestyle expense that continues to go up. And
Mhm.
so, for a lot of families who have kids and they're looking out into the future, the biggest roadblock I think is how do we get enough set aside each month into a college focused vehicle when all the rest of our lifestyle expenses are also getting more expensive and going up. So it's something that Carmen and I have navigated now for a long time. And the benefit that we had was one, I was in the financial services business right out of school myself. I understood the power of compounding. I understood that getting started early was going to make a big difference. And that's really kind of the number one item you would say. It's like there's never a bad time to do the right thing. And today's the
Mhm.
day, if you haven't started, to get started, right? Because if your kid's 5, get started. If your kid's 15, get started. It doesn't matter if there's an aspiration to go to school, you have to have an active savings program, even if it's a small start. But ultimately, we have the benefit now of Section 529 plans that a generation or two ago didn't have. And that is, we can put away money on a pre tax basis into a 529 plan. That money grows tax deferred. And then ultimately, if used for college expenses, and it's a wide ranging list of expenses, we can use those dollars tax free. And so I didn't do anything fancy, Kev. I didn't do anything special or out of the ordinary beyond really a systematic, disciplined approach to saving. And as my kids got a little bit older, I would make some tweaks in management to the allocation to make sure that I didn't have a lot of risky stuff as they got closer to getting to school. But also ultimately, it's start early, saved often, and then be deliberate about your allocation, especially when the kids are getting close to enrolling.
I'm curious how you went about the selection process and how you and Carm even like in advance thought about, hey, how much are we willing to pay for college versus give our kids some skin in the game, and knowing that a Villanova is close to $100,000 a year, a Penn State in-state is, maybe 40, and then Westchester might be closer to 20. Um, how have you gone about kind of some of the selection process and bringing your kids into that conversation proactively?
It's a great question, and it's not easy to answer. Most
Mhm.
families, I would say, in my experience, because we've struggled with it, is you want everything for your kids, right? You want them to
Mhm.
have the world. You want them to be able to pick and choose, maybe where they go. But ultimately, it is a math problem. It's an affordability conversation. Um, so how did we start the pro? So if I go way back in time, Kev, and we're talking about over 20 years ago. We decided to take a two-pronged approach, and this might have been unique to me. Maybe other people do the same thing, but I created two different buckets. So Pennsylvania has a program where you can actually prepay and buy future college tuition credits. So
Mhm.
that's kind of a low risk way of buying future credits and not having to worry about market volatility. So that was one bucket. And then we had another bucket that was market exposure in a traditional 529 savings plan. So we actually just used very similar to what we use for our retirement planning clients is a multi-pronged approach where we had kind of a safe prepaid program combined with a market risk growth program, and it worked really well for us.
Mhm.
And so how did we meet? Like, what did we do when we said, okay, we're going to start this? How much goes in? Again, back then it was whatever was available. It was,
Yeah.
you know, if it was $50 a month, then it was $50 a month. And we felt proud and good that it was 50. And over the years, we were able to increase it and grow it over time. But I think the college conversation with our kids was really an opportunity for us to have, maybe for the first time, a business conversation with our kids. So what we were explaining to them was, this decision that you make, you have school A at 75,000 and you have school B at 45,000. We're going to be able to cover in total school B at 45, but the difference for you to go to school A is going to be on you, which means that you might have to accept, a fairly sizable amount of debt. And we didn't tell them that they shouldn't do that. We just coached them up on what the consequence of that might look like.
Mhm.
Add it up, add the interest, show them the math so that they understood the decision that they were making. So it wasn't, hey, I want Villanova at all cost. It was, hey, here's, Villanova versus whatever, Westchester, and the difference between them. And then we allowed them to, with our guidance, make what we thought was the best business decision for themselves. So that was a really neat process for us to go through. And I think for them, some light bulbs went off about this isn't just about, who has the coolest mascot, who has the big football team, who, where's the best Greek life. It was way more about, okay, when all is said and done and my college experience is over, do I want to be off in the world, maybe scot free and without any debt, or am I prepared to accept, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt? So that was a really important conversation and a very valuable one that we had with the kids.
One of the things as a lot of our clients are deciding, okay, they're looking at Syracuse out of state or Penn State in state, and they're coming up on that final decision and talking their kids through the potential cost and what they can contribute, what the kid may have to or the student may have to cover, and what that debt may be. It's difficult for a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds where this is the most important thing right in front of them, and they haven't had to make a financial decision of this magnitude yet to make it. I'm not in that boat with young kids right now, but I I was as a student, and I would imagine that's a really difficult thing to wrap your head around. One way I've tried to help parents put it into perspective is, maybe having them talk to a 22-year-old cousin or 24-year-old like family friend that has graduated, is now living in, say, New York City or Philly, and they have their apartment. They're going out on the weekends and they want to, maybe even take a trip with friends every year. What can you afford when that student loan payment is $1,000 a month? What type of apartment are you going to have to compromise? How long might you have to live at home for a little bit versus getting a roommate with or getting an apartment with your best friends? When you put that next goal, that next really important priority into perspective as far as what that might mean from a lifestyle standpoint in your 20s, not to mention what that could mean for buying your first house or for getting married and having a wedding and getting started. That tends to resonate a little bit more, is just what type of apartment can I live in after college, and what would that student loan payment eat into? And I've seen a lot of students choose potentially the less expensive school with the lower debt amount once that conversation's had, and they're making that decision excited about that school with clarity and also with a little bit of pride and confidence that, hey, we've made a thoughtful decision at this point and with all the facts on the table in front of us.
Yeah, man, Kev, that's a great way to frame it, and what great advice to talk to a young person who's just gone through this, right? I'm an old guy now, and so it's like, to have a contemporary or a near contemporary kind of provide that perspective, that's invaluable for a 17 or an 18-year-old. We can't underestimate the importance of the Instagram post. Okay. So in this,
Mhm.
I grew up in a generation, obviously, before the internet. I went off to college and like this email thing was like, what is going on with this email thing? I was getting my prospectuses from or what they call them, the syllabus from my professors over this email thing. And I never even had a computer before, where my kids have grown up in a digital age, and their persona and who they are is being shared with the world in no uncertain terms. And this decision about college and posting where they're going to go and the brand
Mhm.
matters. It matters way more to them than it mattered to me. I mean, again, I was saying earlier, over my shoulder here is Washington College, my alma mater. I mean, 1,000 students on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. I mean, uh, no brand to speak of nationally, certainly a little bit in the area, but no brand nationally. Didn't matter to me. But for my kids and for the kids, the parents that were helping navigate this college stuff for, it's going to matter to their kids. So I
Mhm.
think doing those things, one is encouraging our clients to have that business decision, that business discussion with their kids, and referring them to a near contemporary who's been through it. I think those are great tactics to kind of take away some of that Instagram pressure, right? That
Mhm.
that you can take pride in a school that fits your needs, your major, your budget, and know that at the end of it, you're going to have a degree and you're going to be able to take the next step in your life, hopefully feeling proud and financially secure, and not being buried with a lot of excess debt that was unnecessary just because you wanted the brand and that Instagram post.
Yeah. I just want to tell a quick story of, every year, me and five other couples, we go up to Penn State and take our kids aged from babies to my oldest is 7. We have about 10 kids staying in the house that we stay in up in State College, where we all went to school. And we take them to a football game, and it's adorable. Year after year, we get pictures of the kids on the Nittany Lion, and we get pictures of them at the game. And this year, we were talking a little bit about, if we sent all of these kids to school, what would it ultimately cost? So we used a college cost calculator, or we used Claude and plugged in, okay, how much would we need to save each month to send all of these kids to Penn State if the tuition rate continues to increase by 4 or 5%, and our investments of that $500 increase by, say, 6 or 7% in a 529 plan? What would we ultimately need to save? And it came out to be about $500 a month that we would need to save to be able to stay on track, given all those kind of inputs, to send our kids to Penn State. Now, there's less expensive schools than Penn State. There's more expensive schools than Penn State. We don't know what college is going to be in the future. And so it's a tough bet to say, am I going to take $500 a month, meaningful cash flow, where that could go other directions, and set that aside for school? Now, it's far away, but it was a really great time to have some conversations with couples to say, how much is college a priority to us? How are we doing from our own savings rate for the things that we're going to need to care about and protect in our future? And did we have different college experiences as far as how much our parents paid, or what the price tag is on the school we went to? And how does that influence the way that we're going to be approaching how much money is going into this 529 bucket each month? Or if you're getting a bonus, how much of that bonus will ultimately be put towards the 529? And I think, as you said, Owen, earlier, the key is to start early, whether it's $500 a month, $50 a month, something in between. Getting that money growing over a 10 to 20-year process is really meaningful, and will really help. But I think just having that conversation early and often, as we do with our clients, and see, okay, what are we potentially on track for? And should we be a little bit more proactive with this next big commission check and put some more of it towards the 529 for your fifth grader, that's where I feel like we really help with the New Wealth Project, is getting people to start early, getting people to have these conversations early, and then ultimately as they get into their high school years, really starting to prioritize where do we stand, our long-term future towards retirement, what cash flow flexibility do we have right now, and should any extra savings be going towards this college specific account, or should it be going towards our life, giving us some flexibility to be able to navigate the payments later on? And are we willing to pay for a school like Villanova, or are we going to set some type of guardrail to say this is what we can contribute, and have that conversation like you had with your kids? This is what you would be on the hook for. Here's an informed decision that you can make as far as where you want to go to school.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask my son Keller, who just graduated from St. Joe's, if he's happy that he just graduated with no debt, I mean, I think you know what the answer is going to be. But that's a perfect example of a school where high achieving high school students are rewarded with merit based aid, right? So if there's schools that are hyper competitive, and it doesn't matter if your kid's a National Honor Society student and is a 4.0, they're not going to help from a financial perspective
Mhm,
unless it's needs based. Okay.
mhm,
But if you're a successful high earning couple, you're probably not going to qualify for meaningful need based aid. So then you start to think about, okay, where are schools that are trying to attract high achieving high school students? And
mhm,
St. Joe's is a school that offered my son a wonderful opportunity. It's huge
mhm,
academic scholarship. My daughter Finley is currently a student athlete at Iona University in New York. Same exact story, a thriving and growing university that is trying to attract high achieving high school students and made the economics work. And those, my two kids who are currently in school, or those two kids in particular, made that call. And it was a great call. Um, I did want to add one more element because Kev, as you're describing kind of that young couple and they're trying to balance how much goes into the college savings, how much do we set aside maybe for our life, et cetera.
mhm,
What do we prioritize? One of the things I've talked with clients for many years about is the fact that you can borrow to help finance for college.
mhm,
It's much harder to borrow to finance your retirement. Okay, so what we don't want to see is a couple compromising their future, right? They're like totally derailing their financial plan and their ability to have financial freedom to, their kid doesn't graduate with any college debt, something to that effect. And so part of our counseling and our coaching approach is to help them see that bigger picture and create that balance between, okay, we want to set our kids up the best we can at the right school at the right price, but we also can't compromise ourselves and our future while doing that. That's a hard balance to strike, but again, as we sit back, an objective third party, we can help offer that perspective that they may not have themselves.
and I would say that perspective is one of the most valuable things that we do with New Wealth Project clients, is helping them make those informed decisions early on, but also through that college selection process that really, really defines their success later down the road.
Yeah, and Kev, we serve retirement planning and retirement clients who have built substantial nest eggs,
Mhm,
and their kids and their grandkids stand to benefit as the heirs of those estates. And part of our ongoing dialogue with those families is maybe there's an opportunity to help today. Maybe
mhm.
there's an opportunity to help either set up the college account, fund the one that already exists, take on some of the payments directly to the institution. But this becomes for successful families a multi-generational conversation. And it's one where our retirement planning clients are connecting us with their kids who are trying to figure out what to do with their grandkids, et cetera. And so this has become a broader planning conversation for all the reasons we just described. It's expensive, it's complicated, there's multiple funding vehicles, and it's not getting easier, it's probably getting harder. And so, whether you're the couple trying to save for your kids or you're the grandparent who'd like to step in and help, having a partner who can help you look at it from a different perspective. And certainly in my case, been through it and I'm in it. There's a lot of value that can be created there.
Dan, I have we're at 11:01. There is one thing. No, no, but if we're if we're busting this StreamYard at the seams, um there's one flexibility piece to potentially throw in there, but we can save that for another time. Okay. Yeah. I mean, oh, and you have 5 kids. Um, all with a so 5 kids. The oldest is 24. The youngest is still in high school. She's going to be looking at school soon. Um, but one of the things that I find a lot of younger couples with younger kids say is like, we don't know what college is going to look like in the future. We don't know if our kid's going to get a scholarship. We're a little bit hesitant to put money towards a 529 plan thinking that there's more restrictions than there are. If it's not going to be able to be used for college, we don't want to be penalized by that. And I'm curious to hear from your experience with one going to cosmetology school and two getting scholarships, like how you are able to use the flexibility of the 529s to fully use them and take advantage of them and not have them go to waste.
That's a great point, Kevin. I think this is often overlooked because for most folks, the 529 is college specific and it's a
Mhm.
use it or lose it type of benefit. And that is not the case. So we actually, two of our 5 kids went through private schools, and you're able to use 529s to pay for secondary education at the private school level. And so there was a couple times where we were able to use tax-free dollars from the 529 for private school tuitions, which was great. My oldest daughter, Logan, as you mentioned, chose a different path. She chose not to go to a 4-year college, but rather go through a cosmetology program and a lot of specialty training for hairstyling. And the 529 plan was number one, able to be used for those expenses, which is great. But for her, we can now, under the new rules, we can convert the savings that we have for Logan into a Roth IRA for her. So at 24 now, she has, because of college savings, she has a tax-free retirement account that will compound for the rest of her working life and be a meaningful part of her nest egg. Not because I knew that that was going to be available, but because the flexibility of the 529s has increased over the years. It allows for a family to use the tool, know that they could use it for private schools. They're certainly going to be able to use it for higher education. And by the way, that higher education also means computers, rent, etc. Like it's a broad menu of expenses that you can use the 529 plan tax free for. But if it doesn't get used, your student decides to leave college or doesn't go at all, up to 35,000 of those college savings can be converted to a Roth. And so you're setting your kid up um, and their future up in a meaningful way. And it's certainly worthy of note.
Yeah, and then with scholarships, like you are not penalized for distributions if your child gets a scholarship. So it that is a big objection that we hear is what if our kid gets a scholarship? We don't want to be penalized. The 529 has it written in there that you won't be penalized for that. You're able to take out the qualified education expenses of ultimately what they would have if they didn't have that scholarship. You can also, if you didn't use your daughter's 529 for the Roth IRA, or there was more in there than would be able to go into the Roth IRA over time, you'd be able to roll that over into one of your other four kids' 529s, use it for them.
That's right.
And so there's a ton of flexibility within the 529s. And so when we're planning with new wealth project clients and getting them to start early, and put meaningful contributions there, as long as their savings rate is healthy for their retirement and their own flexible brokerage account, we want to be very proactive there, and we want to try to prioritize that 529 plan, and we can alleviate a lot of the what ifs with the flexibility that's been built into the 529 over time.